A fintech chief information security officer gets a call at 2:14 in the morning. An on-call engineer has been bouncing between 3 different security consoles for 4 hours, trying to piece together whether one suspicious sign-in is a stolen credential or just a tired employee on a new laptop. The real issue here isn't a failure to detect an event. The problem is that detecting an anomaly and actually understanding what it means have fractured into 2 entirely disjointed jobs. The average security operations center receives roughly 11,000 alerts every single day. Due to the sheer volume, up to 63% of those go completely unaddressed. The tools currently sitting in these centers were built to flag events. They were never designed to cross the gap between a triggered alert and actual comprehension. Doing that translation by hand costs U.S. organizations $3.3 billion a year in analyst time alone. The modern SOC is failing because there is a structural distance between generating a signal and building the context required to resolve it. It is tempting to look at that queue and assume the solution is to hire more people to review the alerts. But with a global cybersecurity talent gap sitting at 3.5 million unfilled roles, building a team large enough to manually outpace the alert queue is mathematically impossible. A human analyst manually correlating data across a SIEM, an endpoint console, and an identity provider simply cannot move fast enough. Adversaries no longer take days to move from initial reconnaissance to full exploitation. Those windows have compressed down to minutes. Outrunning modern attackers requires stripping away human mechanical effort and replacing it with autonomous machine-speed investigation. Building that autonomous layer starts at the very bottom, with raw data normalization. You cannot deploy an AI agent against chaotic, bespoke log formats. If every security vendor formats their output differently, the agent cannot accurately parse the environment. The practical standard to solve this is the Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework, or OCSF. It takes disparate data, network flow, cloud audit logs, and endpoint telemetry, and maps it all into one common language. Once normalized, a single detection rule can be written once and applied universally across every data source. This transforms a fragmented multi-vendor environment from a series of siloed dashboards into one continuous, readable investigation timeline. Without a unified data schema acting as the foundation, cross-platform autonomous investigation is impossible. Once the data is normalized, it has to be evaluated. Relying on a single detection method fails. Pure signature matching misses novel attacks, and pure anomaly detection drowns analysts in false positives. The solution is multi-vector detection, running parallel processing pipelines simultaneously. The first 2 vectors are immediate flags for universally forbidden actions, like disabling audit logs, and sequence-based detection that reads events in the exact order they occurred. The final 2 vectors evaluate behavior. One establishes a baseline of what normal looks like for individual users and hosts, while the other calculates cumulative risk scores across the network. By overlapping these vectors, the system can take a dozen minor, seemingly disconnected anomalies on a single identity and merge them. This curates raw noise into a highly concentrated, verified starting point for the agent to begin its investigation. Generating that starting point is where a traditional alert system stops. An Agentic SIEM is defined by what happens next. Traditional automation uses pre-built linear playbooks that break when they encounter novel situations. Agentic reasoning is dynamic. It evaluates the situation and actively decides what to investigate next based on what it finds. Given a flagged event, the agent autonomously pulls the full session trace, walks the suspicious steps, and retrieves the surrounding network context. It checks those patterns against the MITRE ATT&ck framework, a publicly maintained knowledge base of known adversary tactics, to benchmark exactly how the behaviors align with established attack techniques. The agent then compiles its findings by grounding every conclusion in retrieved evidence, citing the specific log lines and event IDs it used to verify the root cause. The final output is a drafted ticket, completely pre-filled and pushed directly into the team's existing workflow. The AI agent completes the first mechanical hour of manual legwork, reasoning at machine speed, so the human analyst doesn't have to start from zero. Integrating large language models into security tools introduces real risks. Hallucination and prompt injection are current, practical failure modes. Mitigating those risks requires a strict architectural division.
You have to physically separate read-only autonomous investigation from state-changing actions. Any action that alters the environment, like disabling an account, blocking an IP address, or closing an incident entirely, must remain gated behind explicit human confirmation. This configuration allows the investigation phase to run at machine speed, while keeping the actual remediation safely controlled by human judgment. Enforcing a human-in-the-loop for all state changes is the only way to build long-term analyst trust in an automated system. But none of this automation matters if the data underneath it is flawed. An agent is only as reliable as the record it reads. A standard practice in the industry is to save storage space by suppressing or summarizing similar events into a single log entry. When an agent attempts to trace a path through that summarized data, it hits a blind spot. Reasoning over a gap rather than a fact forces the agent to formulate a root cause without the necessary evidence to support it. This lack of visibility makes an agent's investigation completely invalid if the data pipeline feeding it relies on summarization. Lossless, byte-for-byte data retention is the mandatory precondition for reliable autonomous investigation. This requirement defines the architecture of the Yeti SIEM, developed by Sasquatch Labs.
Yeti ensures every single signal is retained and verified, giving the agent a flawless, complete record to query without missing context. When deployed correctly, this architecture cuts alert investigation times by a third, with some teams reporting reductions of over half. Automating the mechanical legwork of data gathering allows the analyst to focus exclusively on reviewing evidence and making the final decision. By architecting a system from lossless telemetry up to agentic reasoning, security teams finally close the chasm between an alert firing and an analyst understanding exactly what it means.